Welcome to Energy Perspectives. We're here at the North American Gas Conference, and it's my honor as one of the leaders of Natural Allies to host this wonderful, exciting, and fun panel today with three experts in public policy and in economic policy and energy policy, which we're glad you tuned in because we think there's a lot of overlap between energy, economic development, and prosperity for our nation. So I think I'll start, Tim, with you, with Congressman Lyon, former congressman from Ohio. He served 20 years in Congress and is now on the outside doing, he looks pretty good. Yeah, for 20 years.
It's like dog years in Congress. I'm 143 years old.
I'm sure you miss it.
Oh, yeah.
But Congressman, tell us why you sort of got into this. You were a leader in Congress, but you said as you left Congress, you got even more interested in this issue of energy, economic development, and building the middle class for America.
Yeah, my district was in Eastern Ohio. And so when the Marcellus Shale, Utica Shale, all of that kind of came online, I started to realize really the impact, the importance of natural gas. And so I advocated for power plants in my district. We had the battery plant we were trying to land. We had, an auto plant we were trying to keep running and bring economic growth, but you needed the natural gas. And so when I got out of Congress, one of the kind of fights that I wanted to have, especially within the Democratic Party, was that natural gas is really important. And too often we would see a smaller group of people within the party kind of hijack the conversation away from natural gas. When we saw that natural gas was displacing coal, it was, reducing carbon,
reducing emissions
around the world, not just in the United States. And in Ohio, we saw 50% reduction in CO2 because natural gas displaced coal. So you have the argument of being good for the environment, reducing emissions, and the economic development piece. And so I just feel like we, as Democrats, we lost, a lot of working class folks who are concerned about paying their bills and affordability and kind of common sense stuff. And I thought the energy issue around natural gas is a real opportunity for us to go back to the middle class workers, but also get the economy prepared for AI and reshoring manufacturing and all the other stuff that mayors and governors and congressmen want to do.
Well, thank you for your leadership. And speaking about governors, former Governor Terry McAuliffe, the most successful governor since Thomas Jefferson, I should say. Apparently, in Virginia. But tell us, Governor, why were you so focused on the energy mix in Virginia? Why did you sort of promote, which you did, and all of the above, even before it was cool? You were out there. Why did you do that? And why are you still invested and involved in that?
You bet. Well, thank you. So, I took office in 2014. I was very proud. We sort of led the nation all involved. As governor, it's the largest offshore utility wind project in America. And it's about to come online, and it's 3 gigs, and it's going to light up 650,000 homes. We lead the East Coast on solar panels and solar energy. And what does that all mean? It's jobs. It's new jobs. It's 21st century jobs. So for me as governor, what do you want with your constituents? They want their electricity. They want their energy to be reliable. They turn the switch. They want the light to go on. And they want it affordable. And if it's not, you're going to hear about it very quickly. And it really affects. In Virginia today, 40% of the African-American community today is cutting back on groceries because of energy costs. So it has an impact on everyone's personal lives. But for me as governor, to have all of the above is how I could keep costs low, reliable energy, and create really, which is what we did, hundreds of thousands of new jobs in the energy space, which are high-paying jobs. So job creation, keeping your constituents happy, keeping your energy prices low.
And you promoted, along with renewables, natural gas, and were an advocate of new pipelines coming into Virginia because you produce some of your own gas and oil, but you import it, right? And so you need what, pipelines?
We announced 2 big new pipelines, Atlantic Coast Pipeline and Mountain Valley Pipeline, because people probably don't know this, Virginia imports #1 importer of energy of all 50 states.
Wow.
Today. And 56% of energy use in Virginia today is from gas. So we need gas capacity. And I'll be honest with you, as governor, I lost 2 major manufacturing projects, 2, because we couldn't give them the gas commitment, the 10-year commitment for gas. And I tell you, nothing breaks the governor's heart more than to recruit a company to come to your state and create 23,000 new manufacturing jobs and say, I'm sorry, you can't come because I can't give you a gas commitment.
And, that's happening all over the country now, or it's not, maybe not all over, but in some parts of the country, manufacturers want to come back. But if they can't get the electrons, the molecules they need from gas, maybe you can get it from hydro, maybe you can get it from nuclear, but renewables, which are good, they lower emissions, but they're intermittent. You need that firm 24/7 power to fund a lot of these manufacturers, and of course have to stay up 24/7, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So Mayor Nutter from Philadelphia served on the council for many years. I was mayor for 8 years. Your city is one of the largest, most important cities in the country. You all had your own natural gas utility for Philadelphia, but you also started the Climate Mayors. So tell us why you are here speaking at the North American Gas Summit. Why is gas so important to Pennsylvania and Philadelphia?
Well, Senator Andrew, mostly when people think about mayors, we kind of jokingly, but it's real, we pick up people's trash, we fill potholes, put water in swimming pools and, all those kinds of things. But, we also have to stay focused on things like land use planning and zoning. Where is the housing going to be? And all across the United States, we know for a fact, small, medium, and large cities across the country facing a housing affordability problem. But increasingly right behind that are the energy costs, right? To be in that household, whether in the apartment or in your own home. And so energy costs going up in a variety of places requires public officials, local, state, and federal, to focus on energy costs. In Pennsylvania, we're, of course, very fortunate to have a governor who is moving in the right direction, reforming our energy economy. Energy costs in Pennsylvania are 87% less than our good friends right across the river in New Jersey, 25% less than in New York. And so focus, as Governor McAuliffe talked about, focused on jobs, 15,000 jobs, $5 billion in investment, getting out and away from these arguments that we can't even have a discussion about the energy sector, and walking away from this RGGI organization. Governor Shapiro has a plan, but when it all comes down, it is about jobs, but it's also about affordability, reliability. You wake up in the morning, you go to bed at night, your kids come home in the afternoon, somebody wants to make a meal, you want to turn that gas on. It's there, it's affordable, it's reliable, it's accessible to everyone. 500,000 people in Philadelphia depend on Philadelphia Gas Works to make sure that they can run their household.
I'm glad you mentioned Governor Shapiro, because within the Democratic Party, and maybe in other places too, he was criticized recently by a group that thought he was backing away from his climate initiatives. But when I read his statement and read his document and heard him speak, he's not stepping away from climate. He's simply stepping into reliability, affordability, economic development, and climate goals. And you were the head, you helped create the Climate Mayors of America, which was the first group of mayors that came together to say, yes, we must reduce these harmful emissions.
Absolutely.
This is not good for our country, not good for the planet. And if we want to actually make money in the market, the global market's looking for cleaner fuels. But tell us why you, not or stepping back, but stepping into more of the all of the above and helping to explain to people the importance of natural gas.
Well, the one thing that mayors really do understand is, as was said by another mayor a long, long time ago, there's no Democrat or Republican way of cleaning the street. But also, you have to be practical about an all of the above strategy. It's going to work in different ways in different places, but our job is to make sure that it's there. And so we can do a couple things at the same time. We can lower emissions and be focused on jobs. We can lower emissions and make sure that energy is available. And so these false choices that certain other voices want to make out here, we have to push back on the impracticality of what some folks are talking about. All of the above serves a whole lot more Americans than any other strategy.
Then leave it in the ground and walk away, or drill, baby, drill, and not be concerned about the environment.
Well, we're helping
this approach is helping
Well, you look at the abundance of gas, for instance, in Pennsylvania. I mean, 75% of our gas is actually exported. We're taking coal plants offline, helping other countries take coal plants offline because they're actually using Pennsylvania natural gas. I mean, we're trying to do our part, not only here in the United States, but around the world.
Lowering emissions. Terry, tell us, you would know this as a former governor, but it seems to me as a former senator, there's just a lot of talking around each other in Washington. The Democrats say, leave it in the ground. The Republicans say, drill, baby, drill. What's really needed is, like we said, the centrist approach, which when you were governor, you promoted. And then, of course, when Bill Clinton was president, and which you had a big hand in him being elected. How
Still
do you
working
think,
with him.
and still working with him, yeah. Painful, but you're
30
still
years
working
later.
with him. Yes, painful, but you're still working with him. How do you think governors could play a role right now in this moment in American history where we're reshoring manufacturing, we're in a race with China, our national security is at stake? What do you think governors could do to maybe mitigate against this back and forth in Washington and ping-pong policy back and forth?
And listen, I don't want to just disrespect anybody, but what's happening today in the Senate, in the House, nothing's getting done. I mean, nothing. We are facing real challenges globally, and it's just a stalemate. Nobody's talking to each other. At the end of the day, governors have to make decisions every day. We're not allowed to have deficits. We got to balance budgets. I ran a big state of about 9 million, 155,000 state employees. We had to do things. We had to make decisions every single day. And unfortunately, Congress, it's not happening anymore. So the governors have to lead. And we are real with the mayors. I mean, executives, you got to make a decision. I signed an executive order in the morning. That day it was done. No questions asked. But, that's how you lead. And that's how we led the country on renewable energy. And then it took a governor saying, we are going to lead. We're going to be number one on solar, number one on wind. And we were able to do that in the Commonwealth of Virginia, totally shake up our whole state. And that's why it's important for the Natural Allies and others and all the folks who are here today. We have 38 governor's races next year. 30. The whole country is in play. And we, all of us who are involved in trying to get this party in the right place on energy, need to be involved in the dialogue in these 38 races across the country. Because these governors, with AI and data centers and what's the need for energy today, these governors who are going to elect next year will have the say of our energy policy for the next 4 years. So it's a great question. We need Mary to lean in, be involved in all these races next year. But let's take NACO for a second. Let's take all these data centers. Why do we need so many? And Virginia has the most in America today. Is because of AI is consuming so much energy. We need to lead on AI in America. If we don't, China will take over. You'll see UAE, other nations. This is the future. Most jobs are going to be created, highest paying jobs. We need to own AI. It needs to be American, but we cannot and will not do it if we're not smart on all of the above energy in providing what we need for the energy to fund and run these data centers.
And Tim, finally, I think the governor is correct. One of the things that Congress is going to have to do, but it's also going to have to be done at the state level, is permitting reform. Because we have not been building, right? We have the gas, correct, Congressman? We have the supply. But you could have all the gas in the world if you can't move it from where the gas basins are to the population that needs it, i.e., from Pennsylvania to New England, because we don't have enough pipelines. Talk a little bit about the promise of infrastructure and how America really needs to get building again.
I actually think there's a deal to be made here, because especially as some of the work we do, getting the governor's voice out there, getting the mayor's voice out there to talk to Democrats to say, we want the transmission lines for wind and solar and whatnot. And the Republicans or others would say, well, we want the pipelines for natural gas. If you can get Democrats saying, we want both, let's go, I think you could make a deal there. And again, it's about creating an environment from our vantage point, creating an environment for political leaders to be able to make that decision, like Kathy Hochul's doing in New York with the Nessie pipeline, supporting her and saying, we understand you're doing the right thing. You can't let New York City not have the energy that they need. That's the financial hub of the world.
Right.
So this is some basic common sense stuff, but I do feel optimistic, Maybe we'll have national leaders one day that'll help us be able to pull this thing together. But I think
Don't encourage him too much. He'll announce today. but one thing.
Pipelines to be environmentally safe.
Yes.
We all agree on that. If we're going to do it, it's got to meet the environmental requirements.
Right.
But let's do it smart. Because we're going to need 3 times as much energy between now and 2050 because of the data centers.
Right.
3 times.
Well, data centers and reshoring of manufacturing, like we heard this morning. There are companies moving from Europe, not because they don't have the skills in Europe. They can't get the energy they need.
Right.
So they're looking for places in the world where they can get the energy at the right price. So think about New England right now. How crazy is it for their prices to be so high? And they were importing gas from Russia up until a few years ago. They were importing gas from Russia. Today, they're not doing that, but they're paying very high spot prices. But they're only 150 miles away
right down the road
from your home, down the road from one of the greatest gas fields in America. But because of the leave it in the ground, no pipeline here, can't build a pipeline, those people are paying high prices. Maybe the wealthy people in New York can afford it.
Right.
Maybe the wealthy people in Connecticut, but I can tell you the middle class and lower income people cannot. And they're getting angry, aren't they, Mayor?
No, I mean, we see it now playing out in races. We had a discussion earlier about New York, Virginia, New Jersey and Virginia, and both of those winning candidates talked about energy in the context of an all of the above strategy. And so the fact that energy costs suddenly became a major issue in a governor's race, I think is pretty unusual, but it's not stopping. This is going to continue. And when Governor McAuliffe talks about 38 governor's races across the United States next year, I would submit that energy is going to be a big part of that conversation.
And just to add real quick on the getting natural gas from Russia, like if we're not getting natural gas from PA with pipelines where the natural gas companies are going all in to reduce corrosion, reduce leaking,
and build them safely.
It's the safest natural gas in the world. So we're going to say, we're going to hold it here. We're not going to export it to the world, although it's the cleanest there is and the safest there is. We're going to get it from Russia. Now, do you think Vladimir Putin gives a damn if there's some leaks in the pipes, the pipelines in Russia? No, that's ridiculous. Many of these other countries don't either. So we want to export. We'll reduce emissions. We'll have economic growth. We'll rebuild the middle class. It all comes together.
Well, thank you all. This has been really interesting. We're going to wrap up by, I think, ending on the note that we have 38 states that are going to be electing governors. And so this conversation that we've kind of started today with this wonderful podcast and North American Gas Alliance, this conversation needs to continue in every neighborhood, every county, every parish we have in Louisiana. To talk about what's causing the prices to go up. What can we do to lower them? How can we reduce the burden on the middle class? How can we use the great resources of America, the energy resources we have to beat China, support our national security, build our economy? So thank you all so much. Really, really appreciate it. And maybe they'll invite us back next year.
Hope so.
All right. Thank you all.
Thanks. Thank you.